Body.
Give me body.
Give me body. Okay. Cumulative high score 25. So we're going to talk about the code of silence in the black community. Okay, this conversation stems from a conversation that Danielle was involved in on Twitter. Well, she wasn't really involved in it, but like she just was kind of talking about it. And I was like, that's a really good topic. We should talk about it. Okay, so it kind of comes in reference to the Aziz Ansari scandal, which we did talk a little bit about last week. So a guy said he hopes that the accuser isn't brown because she should have kept this to herself for the culture. And then I saw Danielle say something like, we should really talk about this on our show because why should we always have to keep quiet? So I'm going to read y'all some statistics. According to the Bureau of Justice, statistics for every black woman who reports a rape, at least 15 do not. Stars such as Oprah, Monique, Tyler Perry were all abused and forced to keep it a secret.
Girl.
So, why do you think? What is going on? What's the tea?
Why y'all looking at me?
You was on Twitter doing it.
Oh, okay. So I think that it sort of stems from like, let's not have the white man in our business.
Oh yeah.
Because we can't have them knowing what's going on and knowing that something is wrong, because if they get involved, then it's going to make matters worse. And, like somebody's going to go to jail, somebody's going to get hurt. I mean, I think it's sort of like a slave mentality type thing, whereas, you don't want to get certain people involved in your business. So it's best that you keep it hush hush and keep it in the family. When in actuality, I mean, it causes more pain and hurt and harm than it does to actually release this, because I mean you have one individual that's like a victim that doesn't know how to actually express herself or himself, and then you have somebody that is not being stopped. This behavior is continuing, and so they're not only messing with you, they're messing with, a plethora of other people.
Right.
So I think that it's very harmful for people to actually keep these type of issues hush hush. And I think that it's just to point out, like, it's not only, abuse. I mean, it goes along with this whole mentality of let's not snitch, period. Because if you're snitching, then you're a mark. You know what I mean? Like, you shouldn't tell what's going on with somebody, period, or whatever. Like, we need to keep this in the family, to keep it on lock.
Right, because, black people are afraid of prison, which is what it boils down to. If you snitch, I'm going to jail.
Well,
but you fucking up, though.
Yeah.
So it's like... Yeah.
I think that it's more than just prison, though, because, I mean, it's also how the family looks. Like, it's not just your image that you're tarnishing. Like, it's us as a whole.
I can agree with that.
First off, fuck your clique and
fuck your bitch in the clique you
but,
claim. West side,
but that's part of the issue. Is like, we don't want us as a family to look like
whole, to look bad. No, I agree.
So I mean, I think that that's also part of the issue. It's not just jail entirely.
Well, I think, and it kind of goes back to even not just being like somebody in your family has sexually abused you. For instance, I hate to keep talking about myself, but I was sexually abused by a black man who wasn't a relative of mine. And I still didn't talk about it with my mom. And I guess maybe it was because I felt shame or I don't know. But it's like we just don't share that kind of stuff because my mom and we never talked about sex or anything like that. So I think maybe there's just a kind of a breakdown in our community overall with communication. Right.
As a fucking whole.
With communication, not so much just stuff that we need to keep secret. Because I was listening to Lemonade today, and on Love Drought, Beyonce even said, I live my life in the dark for the sake of you and me. Meaning, I don't talk about the shit that we go through. So that goes back to like what Danielle said about, making sure people don't know what's our business and all that stuff. But it's like, when do we get to the point where we can share our feelings instead of hiding for the sake of, you know,
Saving face.
appearances, because really everybody has issues. You know, there's not one family that has no issues.
But everybody doesn't look at life and the world that way. I'm slowly learning that, like dealing with other people and being around other people. Some people don't want the smallest little detail about their family history or issues or that one uncle or whatever. They don't want that shit to come out. And I honestly, for the life of me, I don't understand why, because here's the thing. I'm kind of crazy when it comes to my children.
Right.
So you may die. I'm not even going to say may. You may make it to a doctor, but bitch, I'm going to try to kill you.
Right.
Like, that's what's going to happen. But also, too, I think that in a lot of families, black people tend to want to get the justice or whatever, or just confront the person on their own. Because like
rather
what Danielle said,
getting the cops involved.
Yeah, you don't, that's one thing you don't do. You just don't call the cops. Like,
well, maybe it goes back to, like she said, maybe the time before we actually were looked at like, you know, actual citizens. So it's like you tell the cops and they gonna do what?
And they look at you and take your ass to jail.
Right.
Because you're standing there breathing and being black.
Right. So you're telling the police and they're doing nothing. So it's like you can't trust them anyway.
Any fucking way.
So why tell them when somebody's doing something wrong?
And you got like 9 cousins that will go get that street justice and we'll be all right. Yeah.
So like, how do we fix it? What do you guys think we can do? Nathan?
No, I think that we have to sort of develop a culture of acceptance and saying, you know what, it's okay for you to tell your truth and say, you know, this person, not necessarily ostracize, you know, this person from your family or whatever, because a lot of times these things are happening within the family. And you already know, because people are like, you know, don't leave them kids around Uncle Charles.
Bitch, because it's real.
You know what I mean? So, so if you already know that Uncle Charles is like that, why are you continuing to let this behavior exist without
is he
checking
even the fuck there?
Why the fuck is Chester invited?
Right.
Why is Chester here?
Do you
Why is
guys
it
watch
okay?
How to Get Away with Murder?
Yes.
Okay, remember when Annalise and her mom, they had like the come to Jesus about what happened with her uncle or whatever?
Yes.
Like, the mom handled it or whatever, but it's like she got so many issues because she never came out and talked about it.
Yeah.
And didn't the dad not know at all?
Yeah, I don't think
he
knew.
fucking cried like a baby.
But I kind of feel like, you know, Danielle, you kind of you brought up the point of just, you know, acceptance, but I think more so than anything, we have to let go of that shame that comes with just talking about it for ourselves, not necessarily like having to worry about whether or not you guys accept me. I have to accept myself.
That's right.
Well, I was going to say that in addition to acceptance, you know, there's also the issue of therapy. Like, black people just shun therapy altogether. Like, when something happens, it's like, okay, we just go to church and this
Pray
is
to
gonna,
Jesus
and we're gonna deal with that or whatever. When in actuality, like you were saying, the shame is actually the source of the problem, because one, you feel ashamed to even say that this happened to me, and two, it's like, oh, what are people going to think of me now because this happened to me? I didn't do XYZ to make it stop.
Right.
I didn't do XYZ for it not to happen. I put myself in this position, you know, so it's like so you have all of this shame, all of this judgment surrounding this situation. And then on top of that, you don't have anybody to talk to.
Right.
Because you have to keep all of this stuff quiet. So on top of acceptance and saying, you know, yes, this did happen to me or whatever. And then, you know, your family kind of saying, you know what, this is not going to happen again. We all need to, in that situation, in a family, everybody needs to go to counseling, because everybody has some sort of indirect role in the situation, because you knew and you didn't stop anything.
Or even if somebody didn't know and you still have to talk to and deal with this person, you don't want to, you know, be insensitive to what the fuck they've gone through, I feel like.
I feel like there was something that I read or watched, and it was like, the brother had molested the sister. They all went to counseling, like the whole family, and it was like just so awkward, like dealing with that issue. But they did work through it. But and then this is another thing I want to say about children who molest other kids. It's like somebody has
Did that
likely
to
done
them.
that to them.
No,
Yeah, I
100%.
can't remember the name of that movie, but I guess I watched it like maybe 3 years ago. But it was a black kid, and he had this guy that used to drive him back and forth to like basketball games and stuff. But he was molesting him and making him
my
like
God.
suck his dick and all kinds of crazy shit. Anyway, he did it to his cousin, but like she was really affected by it. Of course she was, But she was so angry with him. But I guess I kind of felt like, he didn't really know any better either.
Yeah.
So it was just like they both were victims. But it's like,
what's that pastor at Lakewood Church, the black guy?
John Gray.
Yes, he also he was sexually abused.
Was he really?
Yeah, he was. Like
I love him.
Like some like an older kid in his neighborhood made him perform oral sex on him or whatever.
Oh my
but
God.
I mean, so and he kept that for the longest.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I mean, you have
Damn.
those situations, and it's like who can I turn to?
I
mean,
was just about to blame the black church too.
but it's not necessarily the church's issue. I think because this happens in white communities too. It's like people are just so ashamed because they're like, why me? Why not the next person?
I don't think
No,
that. I don't think that.
But that's a stage of dealing. I'm sorry. That's a stage of dealing with your grief and your issues. That's just one part of it. That means to me, that's I get it, but I feel like that's only one part of you getting better. Like that's a
But a lot of people
small
stop
portion.
there though.